Hello, and welcome to another episode of Set-4-Life Conversations, where we help you get your mind right and your money right by discussing life strategies for the everyday person. I'm your host, Thomas Lacoma, and each episode will spend some time with financial advisor, pastor, and motivational speaker, published author, and former college athlete, George Thompson, as he shares with us wisdom that you can put into practice today. In today's episode, we talk about the 4 stages of financial growth: spending control, debt elimination, SaVesting, and building a wealth machine. We discuss how George uses this approach to teach you how to practically apply financial management to your life. Okay, how you doing today, George?
Man, I'm doing great. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it.
Indeed. Yep. So this week, I'm actually really excited about today's episode because it builds on something that we've been talking a lot about. In other episodes, you were talking about the 5 levels of financial being, which is a concept that comes out of your book, The Wealth Cycle. Today, I wanted to dig a little further into that and talk about the way that you teach people to manage finances by talking about another concept, which you teach, that is called the 4 stages of financial being. So, but before we go into that, before we talk about those 4 steps, some people may be new here. Some people may not know what the 5 levels of financial being are. So why don't you just give us like a little brief refresher on those 5 levels of financial being?
I'm going to walk through those 5 levels. But first of all, Thomas, I'm glad you're excited about it, because I'm excited about it because these next couple things we're going to go through, the financial being and then also the levels of financial growth, these are what's called mechanics. Like if you are an athlete, I'm sorry, we're still watching all these shows. If you're an athlete, there's certain things you do in training to prepare yourself for a game. These are things that you can do. If you're a business person, there's certain things that you do. Like people go to school, they learn certain things so they can go out and execute them in real life. If you learn how to organize your life this particular way, this will help you grow. So what this is we're finding out what level someone is at. And then we're saying, how does someone get to the next level? So quite simply, hopefully you can see this on my screen.
Yeah, we can see it.
Every person is at one of 5 levels. I'll repeat it again. I'm a minister, one of 5 levels. So what we want to do is find out what level you're at. So the first level someone can be at is struggling. Struggling, quite simply, is defined as inability to pay your current bills. You're just trying to figure out how to make ends meet. Unfortunately, you're kind of flailing in water and you're saying, I just want to come up for air. So we're struggling. So we have to find out what we want to do to get to the next level. Then there's steady. That means you make just enough money to pay your bills. But if something snaps, crackles, or pops, you fall down to struggling. So steady's not the play. We don't want to just, some people say, oh, I'm just doing fine, I'm steady. They need to have an emergency fund, need to be able to save and have money for certain things that happen. As you know, the coronavirus came, and then people are finding out, wait a minute, I don't have enough money to sustain for months and to do this. So remember we said 3 to 6 months. But the 6 months it depends on what type of job you have. If you work somewhere where your income is kind of guaranteed, then 3 months is good. But 6 months is much better if you are having something where you're on commission, or you don't know, or your income is derived from other people, or other things are involved in that area. Then the next level is solid. Usually, if I'm doing a seminar, so everybody that's sitting at home, can you just say solid after this? Solid means that you've been working somewhere for a while, you've been putting into the 401k, you take a 1-week vacation, you've been doing pretty well. You have all the reserves and everything like this. Also want to talk about giving and tithing. Is you can do that on any of these levels, but also in the solid area, that's where you're able to do that as well. So that's solid. Then the next level is surplus. I didn't hear you say surplus, everybody. Make sure you say surplus. It's always good to repeat these so that you can get these. Surplus is quite simply extra money. When I was in college, when I first started out, I wasn't investing or doing certain things. And I'd go to a restaurant, look at the menu, and it would say $6.99, I'd say a price. And then I'd look at how much money I had, and then I would look at the price, and then I'd say, do I like to even eat that? Surplus is exactly the opposite of that. That means quite simply extra money, that you're doing something. So that means you either work somewhere, you're doing pretty well, or you own your own business. And
Hmm.
now it's more time where you're learning to diversify your time. And then the highest level, service. I'm going to, you know what? I didn't hear you say it, so I'm going to repeat it just for myself. Service. Service is the highest level. That is where you're not concerned with money. You just do what God puts you on this earth to do. So that's why you see there. So what you're doing is you're just doing, you're a philanthropist, you're doing whatever,
Hmm.
you're just working in your gift. So what the wealth cycle, one of the tenets the whole book is built on is, first of all, finding out what level you're at. And then our whole goal is to get you to the next level. We're not talking about Set-4-Life today, my other book. That's why they're written together is we're trying to take certain periods of time to figure out how to get to the next level. Through the rest of the book, I'm showing you just how do you get to the next level. In other words, we want to go from struggling to steady,
Hmm.
steady to solid. We're not going from struggling to service in 90 days. So what we're doing is
Hmm.
we're learning. So there's certain techniques you want to utilize in
Yeah.
order to do them. And we begin to walk through them in the stages of growth. But so everyone now, what you should do is you look at the slide, or also if you have this in the book, is write down what level you're at right now. You should write that down, what level you're at. Or I know I sound old when I said write this down. Pull out your phone and then type in what level you're at, because what our whole goal is to go to the next level. Then we want to write down what does it take for us to get to the next level. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. And you know what's really cool about these levels is as you're going through them, I really believe that you're learning the skills to be able to sustain at the next level. So that's why the issue is if you went zoom from struggling to service, how long you think you might stay at service? Because you may not have the skills to be able to sustain whatever you've built up then, because a lot of it, like George said, is about techniques and skills that you need to keep, you know, to keep things going.
Good.
And
It's like
yeah,
mechanics. It's almost like
yeah,
what you really want to do is you see this isn't something that you just do once. It's like a lifestyle. Like I live that type of lifestyle. I know you guys before you called Child Protective Service on me. Like with my kids, you remember I started doing the financial fast where I started whenever I go to restaurants, we don't buy drinks.
hmm,
All the money that you spend on all the sodas, and then I don't have time to talk about health today and high fructose corn syrup and stuff like that. But what I'm saying is the money that you spend on drinks and everything, we take that money and put it in a prosperity jar. We used to start
hmm,
that just during a fast, financial fast for 21 days. Now we don't drink drinks. So now
hmm,
we take that money, put it in a prosperity jar. Now
yeah,
my kids own mutual funds, they own investments, they own properties. So we're
hmm,
taking that money and we're doing it. It's a lifestyle change. Just like so we want to move from struggling to steady, steady
yeah,
to solid. And this is the thing. Some people have been sitting at certain levels for many a years. And there's nothing wrong with being solid, but then we may want to move. God may want to move you to surplus so that you can be a blessing to other people. God blesses
yeah,
us so that we can bless other people.
yeah,
And you also may want to spend more time. Like, sorry, my hand is raised. I want to be the world's greatest father, and don't get mad. I'm not competing against you. You're whatever your goal is your goal. If you're a mother, you be the world's greatest mother. So I want to be home with my kids. There are several times where people used to call me on Saturdays and say, "Hey, can you fly here to teach a financial seminar?" And I was like, "Well, this is when I play basketball with my children." So then we learn now with power of technology. Now we can do it virtually, but you understand that we make decisions based on whether we want to do it rather than if we have to do it. So,
yes,
and separating out needs and
yeah,
wants and things like that and walking through them. So,
yeah,
yes,
yeah, giving yourself more options by moving up a level.
right.
That's really important. If you are just joining us today, I just want to let you know that we are very happy to have you here. Welcome to the show. We release new episodes every Friday morning. If you have a topic you would like us to cover on finances, productivity, biblical stewardship, or anything else that captures your imagination, as you're listening to us, look for the link in the show notes where you can drop us a voicemail. We listen to every single one of those messages. So now, now that everybody has this refresher on the 5 levels, and I constantly think about those 5 levels and try to put myself Where am I and where do I need to go next? So, what I wanted to do was just to read something from your book to set the stage, because this is how you've connected the 5 levels to what we're going to talk about today. So, in the book, it says, once you are clear on your level of financial being, the next question on your mind would naturally be, how do I get better? If you're struggling, you want to know how to get to steady. If you're steady, you want to get to solid, and so on. The purpose of the 4 stages of financial growth is to help you navigate the 5 levels with specific actions and goals that will build on each other to make sure you're successful. Each stage is designed to move you from one level to the next. I think that's basically what you were saying. It's these mechanics that you are helping people to figure out how to tangibly take the actions that will move them on. So, from the book, the 4 stages you list are spending control, debt elimination, SaVesting, and building a wealth machine. So let's take them one by one. What do you mean by spending control, and why is it the first thing?
Right. That is great. And then also just want to recap because what you said was actually perfect. In the book, our whole goal is to get you from one level to the next level. I look at it like in your mind, like we're trying to pick a lock. Like we're looking at what situation we're in and we're saying, how do we pick a lock? So when you put a lock into a door, what happens is it has a first stage where it opens up one part. Then you go to the next stage, it keeps opening up until the door is open. And that's how you do that is actually these levels. So the first level that we have when we're doing this is, which we already said, is spending control. So in other words, that's like having a budget. So one of the things that people used to say to me, which is actually slowing down now, people before said they didn't want to do a budget. And then also, we're not talking about this today. People used to say, I don't want to do an estate plan. But now people actually like doing budgets more than they ever have. And I think one of the reasons why is that a budget, people used to look at a budget as being constricting. Oh my goodness, I'm being constricted. I can't spend. I can't do this. I can't do that. Now they're learning that a budget actually can be freeing. Really quickly, my dad, my children's grandfather, lives in Minnesota, and we went to his house one time, and he lives out in an area where there's a big open field. And there's
Mhm.
his house, and then they cut the yard, and there's several houses around him. They cut the yard up to a certain point, and then it goes into wildlife, like almost like you see like on TV. And we were watching this game, and it was really a good game. And I was watching the kids, and my dad was letting them play and everything. And I kept watching the kids, and then I kept looking at the game. But then I had to watch the kids. I had to keep looking at the game. I had to watch the kids, and I found I was watching the kids more than I was watching the game for 2 reasons. First of all, I didn't want their kids are very inquisitive, and I thought it was just twins, but I found out just there. They figuring out what area they could go up to, and they just kept going right. I'd say, "Come to this area," and that's as far as you can go. And they would go right to the end of that area. Then I started saying, "Man, I should have told them a little bit further in." And then they would just keep going out to that far area, and then they would keep coming in. And then I kept spending my day. Come back, George.
Mhm.
Come back. Come back, Grace, and I take my hand, and then we did all these other things. And then it just kept going. And then my next argument, and then eventually I sat outside and couldn't watch the game. Then the following year, so what was my 2 challenges? I didn't want them to stray away, but I didn't want that was out there in the wildlife to come into them either.
Mhm.
I come back the following year and my dad had built a fence. Did I tell you my dad had built a fence? Out in Minnesota, he'd built a fence. We were watching a game and we were all having fun. The kids went outside. I looked outside once and I saw there was a fence. The fence was doing 2 things, right? The fence first helped in keeping them in an area to which they could operate in. Did I
Mhm.
say that? An area they could
Yeah.
operate in. And the second thing is it kept out all the wild things that could
Mhm.
have hurt them or brought them down. George, why are you talking about fences? Because that's actually what a budget is for you.
Yeah.
So what a budget can do is it kind of tells you the parameters. Like in other words, this is how much money we're spending on eating out. So then you can
Mhm.
say, then you can make it count. Like if we're saying, they're saying, hey, this is how much we eat out. My kids, hey, you guys can eat out twice, or we can buy drinks and we eat out once. Oh my goodness! Guess what? We don't want any drinks. We want we want food. Because you remember
Yeah,
that? You
yeah.
guys watch one of my podcasts. Whenever my kids go to these restaurants, if they say they want something to drink, I look at them after I grab my chest like Fred Sanford and say, "Hey, we came here to eat, not to drink."
Hmm.
So you understand that us having a budget lets us know what we allocate for. Later on, when we start teaching you business, is how you spend your money dictates how well your business will be. If you spend money on marketing, your company will do better than being a well-kept secret. So you
Mm.
want to learn how you manage your personal finances and manage it. And then I told you the second reason. Did I tell you there were two reasons why the fence was
Hmm.
built? To keep the wild stuff from coming in. So
Yeah.
now, if it isn't on the budget, then we're not doing it. I know we're just encouraging people to listen to other of our podcasts, but we told a story last recently that was about how we went to the grocery store and our mothers, you and I, our mothers, went from a shopping list. And if it wasn't on the list, guess what? You weren't getting it. And then with our children, we're the exact same way. It has to be on the list. So then that budget tells us what's important to us, and we learn how to prioritize it so we can get to the next level. So
Yeah.
that's really good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I remember in the book there was also another great analogy that you gave with the budget, that it's almost like your game plan,
Right.
right? So if a coach is trying to get the team all on the same page,
Right.
what he uses is that playbook. He
Right.
has, this is the way that we are going to do things to be successful in this game.
Right.
So I find, for me personally, one of the things that's also really powerful with the budget is, this is especially for the people who are couples, you're married or you're in a relationship and your money is kind of working together. Having that budget is a great way to have that communication again about what is important, because you'll look at, uh, resources are finite.
Right.
Like money is not endless. So there's a list of things that need to be done, and then there's a list of the funds that can do those things.
Right.
So we start at the top and we say, okay, this is the most important. Okay, we got the mortgage knocked out. You go through, and then eventually there's things that are on the list, but there's no money for them right now. But doing that exercise with each other allows you guys to not be in conflict about it, because you've kind of done your pregame. It's like your pregame. You don't want to be in the middle of the game. Somebody's coming towards you and you're supposed to defend them, but you don't know what the rest of the team is doing to help with the defense. So you just kind of wing it.
Right. Or what's even worse is you don't want to be in the middle of a game and run out of gas. Like you weren't trained or conditioned. And in sports now, I'm using football, I'm probably basketball, volleyball, all sports, is there's something called an audible. Is
Yeah.
in an audible, somebody else has to know what the other person's doing. So that's why you have very good communication. So yeah, and it's really true about the game plan, and it's never been more true now, because
Mm.
now we're seeing where people are either getting their hours reduced or maybe getting paid less, or there's different things that are happening that are making people have to allocate their resources properly. So
Hmm.
now is a perfect time to really look at your budget, and we also have budget sheets that go over where your
Hmm.
budget is, and then it needs to show what your income is, and then it needs to show you what your expenses. Income is, see, the income's real big, and then your expenses are really small, so then you get a positive number. And I tell you that you have a positive number, and then that's how you grow. So we can go to the next level. Is
Yeah.
we have to have a positive level, and we call that margin, what we keep in between there. But yes, if you get your game plan right, that's how you can throw somebody a. Sorry, I'm going to basketball. Throw somebody an alley oop, and in doing
Hmm.
that. So yes,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah. And yeah, the alley oop needs timing, needs, being in sync. You can't throw it when they're not ready to jump.
Right,
It has to be lockstep with each other to
right,
work out.
right,
Yeah. And, even as we're talking about the spending control, uh, it really actually leads into the next one that you have there, which is around debt elimination. Can you just kind of talk about that, debt elimination, and how you go from the spending control to thinking about that?
right. So you saw how when we said these are just critical things. If we learn these will change our entire life. Debt elimination is one of the things that we spend so much time on and how to get out of debt. And we'll have a complete session on that. But just one of the things is debt elimination will just be the most freeing. So I just want to tell you to motivate you to do it is that being debt free is probably one of the best feelings. And then I'll explain, first of all, what debt free is. Debt free means you don't have a car payment. And then also you don't have a mortgage on your home. It's very interesting, Thomas. I thought that the best day was going to be when we paid off the mortgage on our home. I remember it. It was in June. I came and my wife. I said, "Hey, we're going to go to the bank this Friday." It was very close to our anniversary, and I said, and then she said, "Okay." And we went to the bank, and they told us that we owed $121 on our mortgage.
Wow.
And now, when we came in, there were people from my office, and we're recording. We told the people there at the bank and everything. We're sitting down. My wife sees the cameras and everything, and she goes, "I'm not signing nothing." I'm like, "Now." Okay, but let's just listen to what they have to say. I said, "I'd like to know what our mortgage is." And the woman, she said, $121.07.
Mm-hmm.
And then my wife said, for what? I said, "No, for the home." So she was surprised. She goes, you didn't. Wow. Because I didn't tell her that we were paying it down that rapidly. And I used a particular technique and that we actually use in the book, but I'll even go through it more. But after that, I showed them we paid off the home. Then I thought that was the happiest day. A month later, almost to the day, a month later, I'm driving down the street, and this is the branch is very close to a mall. And I drove and I said, "Wait a minute, I didn't pay a mortgage this month." I went down to the mall and they had a food court. I went to all the little stations and bought one thing a la carte and just set it down and just took a bite and invited everybody over. I said, "I just want to let everybody know I pay for more. If anybody wants any of this, I just want to just here's some spoons. Just go ahead." I literally, because it was a month later, because it freed up cash flow. How much money we spend now on debts actually really, really, really affect us and what we're doing. So that's why I encourage everybody to go through, we call it debt multipliers, where we show you how to get out of debt. And that first starts with spending control and then reducing our budget and walking through it. Actually, I want to show you a different slide here. So this is one of the things that we actually walk through to be able to do this. So first of all, we want to have, I'm looking right in the middle, we have a budget. A budget is what we spend money on monthly. And these should be numbers written in here. So it's what is our mortgage? If it's 20, whatever our mortgage is. And it says whatever our debts are. Then it has installment debt. That's what we're going to go to. But I'm going to go back over to prosperity dollars. That's what we're investing in. So first that's giving, tithing, and then it's education, and then it's checking, savings, 401k if you work for a for-profit company, 403b nonprofit. If you've never heard of those, there's something called an IRA or a pension or anything that you're putting money into, and equity in your home, prosperity. And then there's installment debt. Installment debt is, first of all, mortgage debt, investment property debt, credit cards, and anything that you owe. So we want to eliminate, we can see my little thing here. We want to reduce or eliminate installment debt. And then we want our budget to be smaller, or back to your real estate or investment. Real estate is, these, we want to have a budget where these can be paid. When we go through our advanced debt elimination strategies, one of the things we do is we look at on our budget, if we have a property and we're receiving income from the property, it might be in the budget a net positive number. We might be receiving $400 positive cash flow. So in doing that, and then that also builds our prosperity. So we walk through our budget and we eliminate debt. So I want everyone to start, that's a mindset as well, is that we eliminate debt. We're not reducing debt. We're eliminating debt. Some people reduce debt down to a certain level and they say, "Oh, okay." And then let's go buy a new car. I'm like, no. Don't keep that process going, or learn techniques to where you can reduce the cost of having a car. Whether sometimes like you may choose hybrid vehicles or electric vehicles when priced, but now I know gas has gone down now, but so you can adjust certain costs so that you don't have them, like going solar. And there's just different things you want to do to reduce debt. We have at least we show how many in our book, in the book, Thomas, at least 100.
We have like over 90.
Yeah. So
over 90 different in all different levels of how to work on, reducing your. And for those who only listening to this on audio, I'll just explain to you what George was going through. He has something that's called Money in Motion. and there is to the left installment debt, in the middle your budget, and to the right prosperity dollars. In essence, the reason the debt elimination is so important is that you're reducing that installment debt so that there's money left over to put into that prosperity column. It's the same thing with the middle of the budget. You're trying to live as leanly as you can. You're not kind of scrimping so that you don't have a good life, but you're not wasting money in the way that you live so that you can put into that prosperity dollars level, because that's the way in which you get yourself to the next levels on the 5 levels of financial being. So, George, we lost your sound.
That, Thomas, you handled that perfectly. Wow, so you know a little bit about this. Joking, but no, these are really important. Also, please look at this slide and utilize it. If you are driving and doing it, don't take your eyes off the road to look at it or doing that. But look this up later, because this is very critical. There's certain things, I'm not saying some are more than the other or in this area, but this is critical. It's almost, look at it like when a player gets drafted in the NFL, they always test them for 2 things. One is how many times they can bench 225 pounds. That's strength and also endurance. And the second is how fast they can run the 40. That's 2 of the things they always kind of check with people. This is similar to that. This tells us what level you're at right then and there.
Yeah.
From this, we know if you're struggling, steady, solid, surplus, or service. So we show graphics for both. Just make sure you look at these, and then also just get the book. And then also there's also this will be in the show notes. And then I think we also have specials where we get certain parts of the book on our website. They just sign up for our newsletter as well.
Yeah, we'll definitely share that with you guys. Before we continue, I want to let you know that if you have a question that you would like George to answer, it can be anything: finances, relationships, getting things done. There are a couple of ways you can get your question to us. Click the link in the show notes of this episode where you can leave us your question as a voice recording. It's actually a really cool functionality where even if you're on your phone, when you click the link, something pops up, you record, you write a little note, and we get that message. So you just take advantage of that. The second way is you can follow George on Facebook. That's actually the best way to get in touch with him. So that link will be in the show notes as well. The third way is you can hit me up on any of my social media locations. I am at TZ Lucoma everywhere. So Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Instagram and Facebook are my most active ones. All right. So we have talked about your debt elimination. We've talked about how we think about spending control. So the last 2 topics are SaVesting and building a wealth machine. I actually would like to dedicate a whole episode to the wealth machine idea. So why don't we just spend the rest of this episode, as we're coming up to time, talking about SaVesting, and then you can give us a brief overview of building a wealth machine at the end. What is SaVesting, and why did you come up with that term?
That is so. That is a great question. So I used to just say, "Hey, everyone, save money," but then I learned that right now interest rates are so low that when you save money, you're actually losing money, just letting it just sit in the bank. So one of the things we wanted to do was look at when you not only save money, that you also learn about investing money. Can you just hold up, everybody, 3 fingers? Whenever you make $1, there's only 3 things you can do with it. The first is you can spend it. Not spending no time on that today because everybody's got that down. The next thing is you can lend it to somebody. That means you put it into a bank, very low interest rate. And the third thing you can do is own something. So that's ownership of stocks. You can own a property. You can do certain things. So I want people to shift their mindset instead of saving to investing, because no matter what you're doing, you're actually investing money. Like, let me give you an example. If you go out and you, I was doing a seminar. We do seminars for children, or for young adults from age 12 to 18. And one of the things I talk to them about is how much money they spend on shoes. Like, and I'm not giving a stock recommendation, but like, if you look at how much someone's saying they're spending on Nike tennis shoes, if they took that same money that they spent on buying $250 shoes and started buying the stock, where would they be in 5 years? So if you understand that someone says, well, I'm spending, I'm like, no, you're actually investing in that company when you're sending them your money, because they're taking that money and that's giving profits, and they're giving that to their shareholder value. So that's what they're doing. So we want to start looking at just not saving, but I made up the word, and that's why I just put it on there. So the word that we made up is it's called SaVesting. So that's saving and investing at the same time. So that's a mindset first, and then it's a practice. So as you go through if you remember, you have your spending control. So we have your budget, right? Then we have all of your income. Then we have your expenses, and then
Hmm.
we're showing you how to get out of debt. But then with that margin number, some of the money is going, some of your money, so the margin, remember, from your income and your debts, some of that margin goes to pay off debt. And then we want to invest, save and invest at the exact same time. Sometimes, and this question has not been asked, but let me tell you a frequently asked question to me: George, should I save money while I'm paying off my debt? And then I want to say this before I give you this advice. I know you guys have read books where people say, well, just pay off your debt or pay off the highest interest debt or do this or do that. A lot of times, those are coming from theoretical ones where they've either from a computer or they're people who haven't done this. I just wanted to say this. I do over 150 seminars a year and talking to people every day, all day. So psychologically, I also want to talk when I'm talking to you, people want to have a victory. That's why we pay off the lowest debts first. And then we start going through them and we negotiate the interest rates with other people. That's one for debt. For investing, we have to save and invest at the same time for these reasons. First is if an emergency comes up and you don't have any savings, then you're just going to go deeper in debt. So you have to start having an
Hmm.
emergency fund. So the first part of SaVesting is having an emergency fund that is 3 to 6 months that you can have liquid. When I say liquid, means that you can get your hands on to pay for things. Then we start looking at investing, and we'll have a whole session and we talk about investing, and we'll leave our information on there if you want to learn about investing, because then we also build a portfolio. And part of us investing is we part of our portfolio, we keep money that's in the portfolio that can be used after those 3 months are up
Hmm.
that would have it. Because in your portfolio, it's not typically all stocks or all bonds. It's diversified so that it should be also at certain levels producing income that should offset those things. So that's
Hmm.
why you want to do that. And also you want to you can reach out to us at my financial planning company, Thompson Wealth Management. We'll put that link in there to show you how to really get a portfolio that is SaVesting so that you can build wealth. And then also, we do something called build generational wealth. So when you build things generationally, you do it two ways. One is you build your financial resources, but then secondly,
Hmm.
you also have to educate your family. So again, Thomas, that might be a whole great topic to handle. Is how and for the family and talking to your kids. So our kids, so if you remember, like with my children, I never tell them we can't afford this or we can't
Hmm.
afford that. They'll say, "Hey, we all want to do this," or tell me something impulse wise, and then I tell them that's not how we allocate our resources.
Hmm.
Didn't that sound
Yeah.
good? But
Yeah.
that's so then they understand that. So they don't we don't operate in lack. We just operate within intelligence. So you
Yes.
remember something? So like I have to say, oh, if we buy these shoes or we're doing this, oh no, by the way, you can have Nike shoes. We're just buying them either for lack of a better word, I'm saying at the outlet, but we're buying regular pairs, and we also own the stock. Like pretty much everywhere that I shop, like when I'm going to them, and again, not giving stock recommendation, but I'm saying like I'm a big Costco fan because I have kids and everything like this. So when we shop places, we own the stock. So I explain that to our children. Hey, when we go in there, yeah, we're owners. Okay, don't
Hmm.
no, we ain't walking out with everything for free, but it's a
Hmm.
mindset
Yeah.
that when we go places like these are like that I believe enough in this to go here all the time. If we go to Target all the time, we go to Costco, then we also own these, we also own them. So that's a form of
Hmm.
ownership. So that's save vesting. That's the
Yeah.
vesting part is we're learning to invest. Remember that we're spending and then we're doing lending and then
Yeah.
we're also owning. So that's how we walk
Yeah.
through it.
Actually, one of the things I remember from the book that is really important about this save vesting idea is that if you're only focused on getting the debt elimination, when you finally get to that goal, you're actually at zero
Yep.
because there isn't anything that you have built up that is your starting place for that next phase. So
Right.
that's why, again, what you were saying psychologically, having something that you're working on that's building while you're eliminating the thing that you don't want is a very powerful way to look at it. You may go slightly at a slightly more moderated pace than somebody who just I'm just going to pay off all the debt. But the other thing is also what you were saying around the safe vesting is important for the
Right.
purpose of when shocks come into the system. So
Right.
I heard about this survey that was done not long ago. I don't have the source. I'll have to look that up. But basically, they were surveying American population, try to understand, there's a certain, uh, most Americans, if they had a shock, a financial shock, meaning some unexpected expense that was between $300 and $400 in a given month, they would not be able to deal with that expense without dipping into debt or borrowing money from friends or
Right.
relations. So
Right.
that's why this thing is really important, because imagine the power, again, you were talking about, of small victories before your mind can even wrap around 3 to 6 months. Just think $1,000. If you ended up putting together $1,000 that sits in the bank, that if my car breaks down, that's where I go instead of that credit card. Imagine the power of that psychologically. You're starting to get yourself to feel like, hey, I got a little more control in this situation. I
Right.
know how to manage things a little bit better.
Or we're
So
not
that's what we're
panicking.
really
Right.
getting at here, is that the more you can get yourself in a psychological state where you're operating like you are the one running the plays versus somebody running the plays on you, you
Right.
know, the better you start getting at these
Right.
things.
It's empowering. I'm sorry, I'm getting excited again. It's empowering because look at how this even happened with the coronavirus. It's like, see how in 1 month, like there are people saying, okay, all of our businesses are closed. Like the business is closing or doing things. Like it's good for you and your employees. Like if you start having reserves for times like this,
Hmm.
that's one, not looking, for different areas saying like, that's it right away. The
Hmm.
second thing that's really empowering is that, during these crises, I'm going to say challenges. People are saying pandemic crisis, but I'm saying challenges like we're in right now. There's
Yeah.
also a whole nother group of people. Remember, we said the struggling, steady, solid, surplus. That this is actually the best time to expand your business because you can buy other companies right now. There are other
Mm-hmm.
things. If you have reserves right now, that there's a lot of people out there right now that are thriving in this time and
Hmm.
saying how they can go out and in doing this. So if you have the financial resources now, that's why you want to set those up so you have the ability to be able to do that. But that's very good.
Yeah. 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 Thank you very much, George. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for another episode of Set-4-Life Conversations with George. Like we said, we're going to do another piece later on the building wealth machine,
Right.
because that piece is very important. But if you found value in what you heard here today, there's a couple of things we'd like you to do to help us to serve you even better. As I mentioned earlier, if you have a question that you want to be answered, drop us a message using the link in the show notes of this episode, or even hit us up on social media. If you're interested in going deeper in any of the topics that George teaches about, one of the best ways to do that is to get one of his books from the Ready, Set, Grow series. You can find a link in that show notes as well. Also, George mentioned in this call, if you want personalized, help with finances, he is a financial planner, so I will include the link to his company and how you can reach out to him if that's your interest. If you just want to learn about George and what he's about, check out his website at www.georgebthompson.com. So thank you once again for joining us, and we are excited to keep sharing more conversations with you. We are on this journey with you and feel like you're going to grow as we grow.